welcome to your personal deep dive. Today, we're diving into the world of book restoration. Well, not just the how, but how to really nail that job interview.
Think of this as your, toolkit to impress, to really show you understand this unique field. And we're going to use everything you've given us, the career guide, the interview guide, even those RoleCatcher insights. So you're really prepared.
Okay, so you're set on becoming a book restorer,
That's incredible.
the guardian of, literary treasures.
It's an amazing field.
But first, there's that one crucial step, the job interview.
Of course.
So let's jump right in. The RoleCatcher Interview Guide, it starts with a question that often, I think, trips people up because it seems so simple. What inspired you to become a book restorer?
Right.
How do you even begin?
It might seem straightforward, but this is your moment. This is your chance to really make a first impression that's memorable. Because the interviewer, they're not looking for a canned response. They want to know you.
Yeah.
They want to hear your story.
So how do you make your answer stand out?
Well, think about it. What sparked that interest? Was it a specific book? A visit, maybe to a museum? A lifelong love for history, for literature? The interview guide gives a really good example of someone who was fascinated by a vintage atlas from their childhood.
Oh, wow.
Find that personal touch that connects you. Bring that spark to life.
Share an anecdote.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But it's not just about the passion, right? It's got to be about showcasing your skills, your experience. Question 2. Can you describe your experience with book restoration techniques?
Exactly, because now it's about proving that technical know-how. And don't be afraid to get specific.
Yeah.
The career guide really emphasizes honesty here. It's about
Wow.
discussing it intelligently. So list those techniques. What are you familiar with? Cleaning, mending tears, rebinding, any specialized training, maybe paper deacidification or leather rebacking.
So it's almost like showcasing your knowledge is as important as the restoration itself.
Absolutely.
So you've attended workshops, right?
Right.
Or even completed projects as part of your studies. That's worth mentioning too.
Absolutely. Any experience, even on a smaller scale, it highlights those core principles.
It shows you're committed.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the why, the how, but now let's get into the real nitty-gritty. Question 3. How do you approach the restoration process for a particularly fragile or valuable book?
Okay, so this question, it's testing your judgment, your sensitivity in handling these really precious objects. Think of it like a surgeon, right? They're preparing for a very complex operation.
You're not just diving in.
Exactly.
The insights section of this really emphasizes the need for a clear, step-by-step approach. So walk me through your assessment process. How do you even evaluate a book's condition?
Absolutely. So you'd start by identifying the materials. How bad is the damage? Any previous restorations? Would you prioritize minimally invasive techniques? Would you consult maybe with other experts? And this is something that RoleCatcher can help you practice, how to outline your process clearly, concisely for that interviewer.
It's like having this virtual mentor guiding you so you can structure your thoughts and really refine those answers.
Precisely. And showcasing those finer details using, archival quality materials. Think of it as the superhero capes for these books.
Oh, I like that.
Preventing deterioration.
Yeah.
Making sure they last
Yeah.
generations to come.
That is such a good analogy.
Yeah.
It makes those details much more memorable. And speaking of details, question 4 asks about your experience with bookbinding techniques, which seems like a natural extension of this.
It absolutely is. And again, be specific. Which techniques are you comfortable with? Case binding, perfect binding, different sewing methods. And if you've explored historical binding techniques,
Oh, wow.
definitely highlight that. It shows a real appreciation for the history.
So it's like being a historian and an artist, I would say, almost at the same time.
Yes.
Understanding the past and trying to preserve it.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears just a bit to question 5. It focuses on problem solving. Can you describe a particularly challenging restoration project you've worked on and how you approached it?
Oh, I love this question.
Yes.
This is where you get to really let your experience shine through.
And your critical thinking skills, right? Finding those solutions. And RoleCatcher can actually help you identify those key skills, things employers really look for, like adaptability and that problem solving. It can tailor your answers to really showcase that.
So it's almost like having a secret weapon to highlight those moments where you went above and beyond.
Yes.
So what kind of scenario would be a really compelling answer here?
Think back to a project where you had unexpected obstacles. Maybe a book with severe water damage or a rare binding that needed extensive research. The key here is showcasing how you think. How did you analyze the problem? What different solutions did you consider? Maybe you consulted other experts. And then ultimately, how did you overcome that challenge? Did you have to improvise?
Sometimes you have to, right? Because, even mistakes can be valuable learning experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay to talk about those learning moments.
Yeah.
It shows that you're willing to grow,
Absolutely.
which is so valuable in any field. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit from the technical, which is so important, to the client interaction. Question 7 asks, how do you work with clients to understand their restoration needs and preferences?
This is where those people skills really come into play, because book restoration is ultimately about working with people who have this deep, often emotional connection to their books.
It's about empathy.
Absolutely.
Understanding that you're handling something really precious to them.
Absolutely. So start by explaining your approach to that initial consultation. Do you have a set of questions that you go through? Do you encourage clients to share the book's history, what it means to them? Because those details, they demonstrate your ability to build that rapport, to create a safe space for them to share.
Yeah. It becomes more collaborative, I would say, less transactional.
Precisely. And this is actually another area where RoleCatcher can be really helpful, because it can analyze your answers, your tone, your clarity, making sure you're coming across as empathetic and approachable.
It's like having a communication coach, right?
Exactly.
Helping you find the right words.
Exactly. And remember, you're not just taking an order, right? You're entering into this partnership to preserve something they love. Which brings us to question 8, which focuses on decision-making. Can you describe a time you had to make a difficult decision during the restoration process?
Oh, I bet there are a lot of gray areas in this.
Right.
The career guide even mentions that you have to balance preservation with what the client might want aesthetically.
Right. It's all about historical integrity. But imagine a client comes to you and they request something that could compromise that, like removing a stain, even if it means sacrificing original material. What do you do?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that ethical dilemma?
And that's exactly what you want to highlight in your answer. Explain your process. How did you research maybe the book's history? Did you consult with other experts? Did you involve the client, especially if their preference differed from what's best for the book?
It's about having those conversations, even if they're difficult, but you're advocating for the book.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to mention if you sought guidance from a mentor, a more experienced restorer. It shows that you're willing to learn and that you're prioritizing the best possible outcome for the book.
It shows humility.
Yes.
Okay, so we've tackled the what, the why of book restoration. We even got into those tricky ethical things. But now let's move on to the how. How do you actually showcase those essential skills in an interview?
Absolutely. So question 9 really gets at this. How do you ensure the work you do is of the highest quality?
Okay, so this is your time to really shine a light on your process.
Exactly.
How would you answer that?
You want to highlight those meticulous practices. Do you have a system maybe for checking your work at every single stage? Do you take photographs to document your progress? It's about demonstrating that you're not cutting corners, that you care. And of course, mentioning those archival quality materials.
Those superhero capes, right?
Exactly. It's about conveying that deep respect for the craft, for the objects that you're entrusted with. Now, question 10 throws a little bit of a curveball because it focuses on managing multiple projects. How do you handle multiple restoration projects at the same time?
Because you're probably not just working on one thing at a time.
Right. And book restorers are often juggling multiple projects with different deadlines, different complexities. So this question is all about how you prioritize, how you stay organized.
So how do you stay on top of it all and make sure that you're not sacrificing quality?
Right. So explain your workflow. Do you use a project management tool? Do you break down those large projects into smaller, more manageable tasks? Do you set aside specific days for certain types of work?
And this is also to prevent any cross-contamination between projects too, right?
Exactly.
Which is so crucial when you're dealing with such delicate materials.
Exactly. And this is another area where RoleCatcher can give you really valuable feedback, because its AI can analyze your answers, looking for those keywords, those phrases that relate to organization, time management, and it can help you tailor your responses to what those employers are looking for.
So it's almost like having a personal editor, making sure that you're using the right language.
Precisely. And speaking of speaking the language, let's talk a bit about how RoleCatcher can help you with this whole career progression path in book restoration.
Yes. The career guide, it outlines those different stages, right? From assistant to head book restorer. Is it a good idea, even if they don't ask, to bring this up?
I think it's a great idea. Because it shows ambition.
Right.
You're not just there for the job, you're thinking long term. You wouldn't necessarily map out your entire career, but expressing an interest in taking on more responsibility, maybe mentoring others down the line, even contributing to the field through research or teaching, it shows them that you're invested.
Yeah, it shows your commitment.
Exactly. And this ties back to RoleCatcher's AI, because by analyzing all those job descriptions, those industry trends, it can really give you a leg up. What skills and experiences are valued at each stage?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. So you can tailor your answers to reflect those qualities.
You're not just thinking about now, you're thinking ahead.
Exactly. Showcasing your potential.
Okay. Now, we can't talk about career progression without talking about applicant tracking systems, or ATS.
Oh, yes.
Those digital gatekeepers, they can really be make or break.
The algorithms.
Yes.
Yeah, they can be a necessary evil, but we've got to understand them. Remember how we talked about RoleCatcher optimizing those resumes?
Yes. It analyzes job descriptions, and then it suggests ways to incorporate keywords without making it sound like robotic.
Exactly. Speak their language, so to speak. But finding that balance, you want to be keyword rich, but you still want to sound human, engaging to that actual recruiter.
It's like the secret weapon,
Yeah.
helping you navigate those hurdles.
It is, and it frees you up to focus on what matters. Your passion, your skills, that love for this craft. Because at the end of the day, that's what resonates.
It really does sound like RoleCatcher can, level the playing field. But even with the perfect resume, the perfect answers, there's still that human element, that passion. And speaking of shining a light on things, the career guide briefly mentioned digital imaging. And I thought that was really interesting how it plays a role in such a traditionally hands-on field.
Oh, absolutely. And, the technology isn't replacing the artisan here. It's really enhancing their capabilities. So think about high-resolution scanning, for example. We can document a book's condition down to the tiniest detail. It's like a digital fingerprint, so you can track even the slightest changes over time. Really important for those rare, fragile books.
So it's like a time machine almost for these books.
It really is.
Helps you understand how they've aged and what you can do.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just preservation, too, because these digital images, you can create facsimile editions.
Oh,
Make those rare works accessible to everyone without risking damage to the originals.
it's incredible. So you're bridging the gap between preservation and accessibility.
Yes.
It's a really cool way to share these treasures. Are there other ways that technology is kind of impacting this field?
Definitely. Think about multispectral imaging. This technique actually allows you to see things that would be invisible to the naked eye.
Oh, wow.
Things like hidden details, faded inks, even those previous restoration attempts.
You're peeling back layers of history.
Exactly.
That's incredible. And I imagine that kind of insight is really invaluable when you're making those decisions about how to even approach a restoration.
Absolutely. It's like having a conversation with the book itself, understanding its journey.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that continuous learning that we talked about earlier, because technology is always changing. And as book restorers, we have to change with it, always learning, always refining those techniques.
So it's not enough to just have those traditional skills. You have to be really adaptable and embrace the new stuff.
Absolutely. It's that willingness to learn. That's what really makes a candidate stand out. And, this is where RoleCatcher comes in again, because it also has this amazing database of company profiles.
Oh, really? So not only can it help you tailor your resume, practice your answers, but it also gives you the inside scoop on who you might be interviewing with.
Exactly. So you can really do your research, company culture, their values, even see if they've won any awards, maybe for book restoration projects or cultural preservation. Imagine walking into that interview already knowing that.
Prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And here's another little secret weapon that RoleCatcher offers. They have a salary comparison tool. Oh, interesting. So you can research those salary ranges. You know what you're worth. Gives you that leverage when it comes to negotiating.
Knowledge is power, right? So it's not just about getting your foot in the door. It's about navigating your whole career with confidence.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Well, to our listener who's about to embark on this journey of becoming a book restorer, we wish you the best of luck.
Yes, good luck.
Remember to approach each interview with confidence.
Absolutely.
Showcase that passion. Let that shine through.
And your love for those books. That's what really matters.
Yes.
With the right preparation, a little help from our friend RoleCatcher, and a whole lot of heart, you've got this.
You'll turn that passion into a truly rewarding career.
Because we need more people who understand that books They're not just objects. They're vessels of history, of knowledge, of these stories that we tell.
Beautifully said. And that is a wrap on another deep dive.